Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the series of webinars from Kingsley Graduate School. So during the preceding weeks, we had a few webinars. So we had one focusing on the education management and leadership, and then we had another one focusing on the health and social care sector. So today we'll be shifting our focus to the tourism and hospitality industry. So if anyone's interested in going through the previous webinars, they can just take a listen. It's available on the Kingsley official Kingsley YouTube channel. So today's topic will be on managing a diverse workforce in the tourism and hospitality industry. So joining me on this panel, we have our expert panelists, our guest panelist, Mr. Namita Gunatilaka, and also Ms. Yashodhara Hemachandra. So just to give you a bit of a background, so Ms. Yashodhara, she is the head of academics at Kingsley Graduate School, and she also holds a master's from the University of Sri Jayawardena and a BBM from the University of Uva Wellassa University. And Mr. Namita, he is a group manager of HR and training at Laughs Leisure Limited and also Ananta Resorts and Spa MBA UK. And also he holds a bachelor's from the University of Ruhna. So a very good morning to you both. So let's start off. So this is going to be in the form of a question and answer. So are you guys ready?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I hope I'm audible once again.
Yes,
Can hear me loud and clear? All right, okay.
Yes.
Ms. Yashodhara, I think I'll start off with you. My first question for you would be, why do you think diversity and inclusion matter in the tourism and hospitality industry? I think we can start off with that, considering the topic that we've chosen.
Yes. Thank you so much, Adila, for the wonderful question. And before starting, let me welcome all of you to this, the next session of the Kingsley Graduate School webinars. And I'm so honored to be here once again, just to mention. So coming back to the question that you asked, why diversity and inclusion matter in the tourism and hospitality industry. But, this is not something very specific only for tourism and hospitality industry, indeed for any industry today, because the current workspace has definitely changed. If you look at like just 10, 20 years ago, now it's not the same. And before just going for the core of the question, what I want to mention, the very first thing is you need to understand what you mean by diversity and what you mean by inclusion. So when it comes to the diversity, now this has become kind of a buzzword, especially in the corporate sector, we believe. And now the diversity is basically, it refers to the variety of differences among the individuals, maybe including differences in their race, their ethnicity, gender, age, religion, culture, or even the socio-economic backgrounds. The thing is, it recognizes that each individual is unique and brings their own set of experiences, the perspectives, or even the backgrounds to the table. So if you take two people, they can't say those two people are, even they are maybe in the same religion or coming from the same cultural backgrounds, their behaviors, their thinking patterns, and even their education and qualifications, all these things can be different. So what happens when there are differences is they carry their own uniqueness. So we need to understand, especially if you take tourism and hospitality industry, this is an international business. This is almost in all the countries in the world, right? So when it comes to Sri Lanka, it's something like we have all our kind of on traditions and all incorporated the industry. So we are a multi-ethnic country, definitely. So in our industry, we can see that we are incorporating our cultural value, everything to the industry, the things they do in the industry. So if you go to another country, that's something like that. And when it comes to the inclusion, now inclusion is it's kind of the act that creating and welcoming and of course supporting and making a supportive environment that values and respects these unique contributions of the individuals. So we have to make sure that everyone is welcome despite of the background they're coming from, despite of the qualifications that they're holding. Likewise, because today in the workspace, in the organization, especially in our industry, since this is being more kind of a human-centered industry, we need to respect each and everyone, because at the end of the day, if the employees feel empowered, if the employees feel like they are part of the organization, if they feel like they're included in their organization, that is how they are going to contribute to their, that is where they are going to do their maximum things for the organization. So when it comes to why this diversity and inclusion is important, just if I brief you on kind of point wise, the very first thing is it's obviously to meet the customer expectations, because that is the ultimate goal of the industry, isn't it? Right? I mean, any organization, but when it comes to our industry, it is kind of it is something that difficult to achieve, but at the end of the day, that is the most important thing. So the customers also coming from different backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds. For example, if you take, say, a person who cannot speak English, he's coming to a hotel, and if the staff can support him maybe in their own language, maybe we are having an employee who is familiar with that language, so if we can respect his the difficulty that he's facing, without hesitation, if we can help, that customer is going to be really happy. So this is what, if we have diversified workforce, we can understand the customer expectations. We have people, let's say, from coming from all the cultural backgrounds, they know that, okay, these people are preferring this, and they're expecting something different from the the general general set of people. So it's very important to understand the meet the customer expectations, and secondly, to attract and retain the talent. So if, like I mentioned, when we have diverse and inclusive workplace culture, it can attract and retain a wider range of talented individuals, because the employees feel that, okay, I'm a part of it and always I'm getting appreciated. And then when they feel valued and respected for their differences, they are more likely to be engaged, productive, and committed to their work. And another thing is, obviously, if you go like, this is a very competitive world today we are having. The context is very, where there are a lot of competitors in the market, and we need to be always updated, and we have to drive with innovation, and we have to be creative. So when we have a diverse workforce, they bring a lot of ideas to the table, variety of perspectives, experiences, and ideas. And this can lead to innovation and creativity. By promoting this diversity, inclusion, the businesses can encourage employees to think outside the box and come up with new and innovative solutions to the challenges that we are facing today, which is very important. Nowadays, the innovations is not something for technology-based companies or the industries. This is also for human industries like tourism and hospitality. So to drive the innovation, to have more creative people, we need to always have diversified people in our organization. On the other hand, we need to now, according to United Nations, the World Tourism Organization, our industry's major task is to build a sustainable industry where we are going to help the triple bottom lines, so society, economy, and the environment. So when it comes to society, to give more job opportunities to people. So if you are going to ignore few people and just to have some specific people in the industry, that's not going to happen. And this is something that we always need to have kind of very good rapport with the host communities. So to provide good job opportunities, having a diversified workforce will always help. And finally, this is something we need to accept, because having a diversified workforce is a compulsory thing in the today's workspace. It's kind of a legal requirement, even though some people do not know about this. I think Namita will something to this, because promoting diversity and inclusion now has become a legal requirement. If you're going to discriminate some people and recruit specific people, that's going to be a problem, because today the world has changed. Likewise, so I think I covered a lot of things in for the question that you asked. Basically, the diversity and inclusion is very required to today's tourism and hospitality industry. Back to you, Adila.
Thank you, Ms. Yashoda. That was clearly explained. Considering that the world's a global village now, it pays off to promote diversity, and inclusion is really important when it comes to tourism and hospitality industry. So going along with that, I'll be moving on to my second question, which will be for Mr. Namita. So, Mr. Namita, what would you say are the best practices for creating an inclusive workplace culture in the tourism and hospitality industry? What kind of practices will help us?
Right. Good afternoon once again, everyone. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah, sure. Can hear me. If By any chance, if it's not audible by any chance in the middle of my conversation, just let me know, because I think there's a bit of a connection issue also. Right, so coming back to the question, I think before we talk about the inclusions, I think I want to give a bit of an insight about the hospitality industry and the tourism and hospitality, because I think most of us who are not working in the hospitality industry doesn't know the depth of how difficult industry to work in. Because if you look at the 365 days, every day, all these events we have in New Year's, in Christmas, in Ramazan, I don't think any of us as hoteliers will be able to go home on those days. So it's a place where you have to stay for 365 days, 24 hours, or probably 24 hours a day even. And also about 15 days, 20 days at stretch, you will not be able to go home. You'll be stuck inside the resort. If it's a resort environment, then probably for a couple of weeks you'll be staying inside the accommodation with your colleagues, and probably once in a month you might be able to go home. And this is the sort of industry that we are talking about in travel and tourism and hospitality. So inclusive is very much important. The feel of that you are a part of the team, the feel of that your voice is heard from the management, the top is very important. For example, when a new person joins to a hotel, let's say it's a kitchen person, a kitchen trainee, or F&B waiter, or HR person, or a marketing person, or security person for that matter, is coming to a total from home, staying away from the home for a couple of weeks. So we have to give that sense of welcome and sense of upbringing when a person comes and joins to the organization. What happens is once you come, you are in a total different world. You see a lot of guests coming, there are a lot of events happening, a lot of activities happening around, but you don't know what to do at the start. So there's a bit of a cultural difference that you will come across when you join a hotel industry or a property for the very first time. So that culture shock needs to be changed from the HR itself. HR managers, HR team, or the resort managers, or the head of division. What we do is, about 20 years back, the HR department was also a your personal department where you think HR is like the principal.
Mr. Namit, I believe your connection is a bit glitchy.
They say what to do, this is wrong, this is right. But now we call it no more personal. Is it clear?
Yes, now you are.
Right. So all these things which was 20 years back has been changed a lot drastically, I would say, in last couple of years. Now even, for example, let's say I'm currently working at Labs, even our chairman or the managing directors or the directors, they don't want us to call like sir. If you say sir, madam, Mr., these things have been changed. Now the first name culture is what we are looking at. That's also a sense of being together, getting together, eradicating all the positions, even the janitors, even the directors, even the CEOs. We call them by the name. That's the culture that we are using. Even John Kills, even Mr. Krishan Balendra, even an intern calls him Krishan. This is a culture that we are bringing in the hospitality industry, not just in hospitality, but I believe most of the industry is happening. But in hospitality also, especially in last couple of years, these cultures have been coming up. So I believe this is one way of answering the question. This is one way of eradicating the previous biasnesses and inclusive and making an inclusive culture by having a first name culture is one. And also, sorry. And also, when you look at, is it clear? Is it clear? And also, the best practices that we can use is by fostering a culture of respect and inclusion. Because we need to have a culture of inclusion and also establish diversity and inclusion policies. We need to have certain policies where the diversity, the hiring, recruitments, all these promotions and everything will be done in a more merit-based way. And also provide diversity trainings for all the employees. It's very important that we have certain trainings among our organizations. For example, when I was in Maldives, we had certain programs where you go away from Maldives for a couple of weeks and stay in another resort or another island for a couple of weeks and do a culture change and identify the cultures in those places. Because especially not just in Sri Lanka, in other countries, when you look at Maldives, there will be different ethnicities, different cultures, different people from Europe, people from USA, people from Africa, people from Asia. So getting them together is very important. So that's what in Sri Lanka also what we are trying to do now. Looking at the culture differences, cultural differences in Maldives and Dubai, we are trying to get a similar certain pattern in Sri Lanka as well. So for that, as I said, these things like fostering a culture of respect, establishing diversity and inclusion policies, and also training them is very important in today's context. So for your question, I think these would be a bit that we could do and move on.
Yeah,
Next
that's a very interesting take of yours, drawing from your experiences from your time back in Maldives. You've given us a clear picture of what it's all about to work in the hotel and tourism industry. And okay, Ms. Yashodhara, I'm coming back to you now with my next question. So when it comes to understanding the different cultural norms, communication plays a key role. So like what kind of communication styles do you think, like, people in the tourism and hospitality industry should employ? What kind of tourism, what kind of tourism related jargon, like whatever it is, like what kind of communication styles can they employ to effectively manage a diverse team?
Yes, thank you, Adila, for that question once again. So the thing is, we understand that understanding these different cultural norms, the communication styles, it's not only for the employer side. I mean, the managers or the executives. This is for all the employees who are working in the organization, in the hotel, travel agency, or whatever the place. Why I am saying is that when you're working as a team, we know that in our industry, the teamwork is very important. If you take a hotel, we know that there are major 4 departments and there are other supportive departments. And in order to cater to, let's take just one guest. So to give him the full experience, all these departments have to work together. So the coordination, the communication among them, the support that they have to show each other and extend each other is very important to satisfy this one guest. So 1 in 2,000, maybe 1 into 100,000, likewise in 100, you just do the numbers. So we need to understand is the very first thing is that this understanding of cultural norms and the communication styles, it's not only for the managers to just to make sure that the down level employees are feeling happy. Everyone has to understand this. Everyone has to respect the other cultural norms and having a sensible communication style to work with each other, since the teamwork is very important. So the teamwork is the essence, and in order to have this teamwork, we need to have proper communication style. So the basic thing which is important is starting from the proactive listening. So we know that when it comes to communication, it's maybe about listening, about talking, about the written communication, verbal, non-verbal, and everything, right? So the very first thing is we need to have an organization where it encourage the proactive listening, that everyone should listen to each other. Now, listening actively and attending to the team members to understand their communication styles is very much important. On the other hand, so it is about verbal communication, and what about the body language? So we have to pay attention to their body language, the tone of voice, and the other nonverbal cues that may convey meaning. For example, let's say a new employee has just joined to the hotel or any kind of organization. Maybe he's feeling nervous, and he doesn't know the work really well still. And we could see these things. I mean, when you see a person, you can say that the person is feeling nervous, right? That's because he's lacking of the experiences. But that's totally different when we compare a person who has maybe working for, like, let's say at least 1 year, so that he knows the environment, he knows the drill. That person can definitely help this new trainee or the new employee just join with the organization, to make him feel kind of okay, I don't have any matter, there is someone to support me at least for some period of time. So this kind of proactive listening, and not only to the words but also their body language, is pretty much important. So that is one thing that we need to encourage. And the other thing is the clarification of the expectations. What I'm saying by that is, for the communication and behavior in the workplace, this is very important, because this can include establishing the guidelines on how team members should interact with each other, and ensuring that everyone understands expectations for communication and feedback. We can just say that we have a very diversified workforce, we are respecting each other, but not only that, this has to be on the daily routine. This has to be maybe written down in books. This has to be written in standard operating procedures in the organizations, so that it will remind every time for an employee that this is how you should respect the others. Just by saying, this is how we are going to work. Maybe in the orientation, we'll say we have diversified workforce, so you have to work like this. Only telling that only that day, it's not going to work. This has to be something that you should remind each and every day. Then it becomes to the blood of the employees, so that they practice it in kind of, it just becomes a routine for them. And the next thing is, obviously we can go for proper training and resources, because training is a kind of a space where we give the employees the opportunity, where they can focus on these things in a specific platform. It's not like daily work, but if you have specific platforms also to just to make sure that these employees are just working together and encouraging teamwork, and they're very sensitive, and becoming maybe about language training. Just why don't we practice another language so that you can talk with your colleague properly? Likewise, so these things can also help to improve these communication styles. And the other thing is, we need to have an open communication. I think, like Namita mentioned, in our industry, we have sort of a very good open communication, where everything is not closed. We can always talk to people. We have immediate bosses after that, likewise. And there is a kind of open communication which is encouraged, and which is important to have when we are working in a diversified workforce. And always we need to give the feedback, constructive feedback, I would say, just not to criticize a person in a very bad manner, so that person will leave the place and go to another one. Not in that way, but just to give the feedback in a constructive way, in a formal way, or informal way, just to make sure that the communication is happening properly. And obviously being flexible. So being flexible, if the management can be have a kind of a flexible management style, and if they are willing to adapt to the needs of the team members, that is also gonna support the employees a lot. So basically, coming back to the question that you mentioned, just to summarize my things, we need to understand the different cultural norms and have kind of communication style with proactive listening, and with good trainings, clarifying expectations, feedback, and obviously a flexible environment as well. Back to you, Adila.
Yes, Ms. Shraddha, that was a good point you made about having it down on record, like actually having it down on record, so that like as an industry protocol, so that people know what communication is all about. It's an all-encompassing thing, not just verbal, but non-verbal cues as well, including body language, as you said. So back to you, Mr. Namita. So my question for you is all about addressing unconscious bias. So like when it comes to recruitment, training, and promotions, like it's inevitable that people have their own unconscious bias about things, about people and everything in general. So what would you say is like the best way to address this unconscious bias that one has as a recruiter or a person who's like in the recruiting panel? So when it comes to also training and promotions.
Right, for this question, I have a mixed answer, because when you compare to the industry that we are talking about, especially hospitality, the industry is not very vast when you compare to other industries. It's a small circle that we always have within the hotels, within the resorts, within the groups. There are a handful of companies that actually have hotels working in the hospitality or the leisure industry. So everybody is interconnected, interlinked. Everybody has their recommended people. Everybody has their people that they know, people who are comfortable to work with. It's a sort of a standard that we have in hospitality industry. For example, let's say, especially this happens in kitchen departments also. And if an executive chef or executive sous chef leaves from one organization to another organization, half of the kitchen staff will be taken with him, and half of the kitchen department will be left in the next month, will leave in the next month. So this is something that we have the industry. So countering that, we have certain situations, certain things that we can take into account. When we screen first, we get recommendations from different resort managers, hotel schools, from department heads. Let's say, for example, if we are hiring a bartender, the best way of finding a person would be not just putting in top jobs or LinkedIn or in social media. The best thing would be the word of mouth or the recommendation from the, probably, let's say, a F&B manager or a direct F&B or a resort manager, because they have worked with this person, they have worked with these bartenders or the waiters, so they are the ones who can give the ideal reference about the person. So based on the references, based on the recommendations, we screen certain people for a position. Then once the screening is done, after that, it's totally unbiased. It's based on the merit that we select the person. So screening would be done based on the references, but after that, the interviews will be scheduled with the HR managers or the resort managers or general managers. And after that, after the interviews, the selection process would be done in an unbiased manner. So that's something we do, but in a certain way. For example, let's say we have a hotel in Pasikuda, we have another resort and spa in Pasikuda. So if I want to hire a person for HR, probably I would hire a person who knows a bit about the culture, knows a bit about the language, maybe Tamil language, both languages, or all three languages would be added advantage. So if I'm selecting a person, I would be thinking about these aspects also. So there will be a bit of biasnesses, bit of, let's say, religious effects. Those things will be there in a way, but it should not be the case everywhere, every time. But then again, there are certain times where we need to consider the languages, maybe race, maybe the cultural, maybe from where he's coming from. So those things will also be accounted in certain situations. And also to the question, there can be a lot of awareness and education programs which we can do. And also we can standardize the recruitment and promotion process. In previous places where I worked, especially in Tassamda, we had a promotional scheme which was quarter based, like for the first quarter, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, likewise quarterly base we have promotion. So if you to get a promotion, then probably you have to do well in the first quarter as well as in the last quarter. It doesn't matter if you do well in one quarter, if you don't perform well in the other quarters, you will not be eligible for the promotions. So that's something we did at TAS, where the person has to have the same standard or same performance throughout the year, and the consistency also should be there to get a promotion. And that was basically done not just from my HOD or the department head, or not just from the general manager. There were HOD's recommendation needed, HR director's recommendation needed, and also there would be certain staff members, certain, let's say, colleagues who had to vote for them to get the promotion. If the colleagues say, okay, he's a manager's best friend, they have some favoritism, so that's why he's getting the promotion. So the colleagues also has also, let's say, a percentage or a portion of giving the feedback, and all these, once after evaluating all these feedback from from the managers, from the general manager, from the colleagues, from the guests also. Let's say if a waiter is doing well internally, but when it comes to outside, when talking to a guest or serve, the guest is not up to that standard, then probably doesn't matter whether you do the paperwork or the groundwork well if you don't do the proper service to the guest. So those areas we look at to eradicate unbiasedness or the bias. That's something we do in the hospitality industry.
Okay, so Ms. Namita, so once the employees have gone through their initial screening and the vetting process, and like they have started off with their jobs, like in a diverse environment, in an all-inclusive environment, conflicts are bound to rise. So in such a situation, what strategies can one employ, particularly one in the administrative section or someone higher up, how can they go about resolving these conflicts? What strategies can they employ to resolve conflicts in a diverse team and also create a cohesive work environment?
I think there should be a certain limit of, I think, let's say, there should be certain, wouldn't say a certain percentage, but I think there should be a bit of conflicts as well. Without conflicts, you don't have any conflicts in the organization. That means it's perfectly all right or perfectly just something wrong, something missing in the puzzle. So I think bit of conflict is also good in times, but it should be in a calculated manner. This conflict should not be to harm anyone, to harm the progress of a person, to harm the growth of a certain employee. It should not be the case. But sometimes when a leader or somebody says, okay, let's do like this, there should be a person or the other should have the freedom to express their voice saying that, no, look here, this is not the correct way. We can do like this would be more effective. We can create more businesses out of this. We can satisfy the guests if we do like this. So those conflicts should always arise within the organization. The conflicts itself shows that it's not a one-way traffic. It's not the boss or the manager says, let's do like this. But others are also sometimes agrees or sometimes doesn't agree. It depends on the right thing. More effective thing might come to the fore. That's something I believe bit of conflict also should be there. But also answering your question, the strategies what we can take is probably, let's say, establish a clear communication channel. The proper communication is a must in everywhere in any industry. Proper communication, lack of proper communication, I don't think any company can go to a certain level that they expect or the stakeholders expect. And this communication should be there. Even I think Yashodhara also mentioned about the importance of communication. So that's something we need to look at as a strategy. And also build trust and respect. We need to build the trust and respect among team members. We can do, I mean, one previous place where I was working, they had this AHP plan, Associate Holiday Plan, and even Cinnamon, they have this plan where they look at work-life balance in much more in-depth way. This HP program is you get at least 10 room nights per year where you can go out with the family. We can go and stay in another hotel in Taj group or Taj Lanka group. And you should work for 9 hours. And after that, maybe on weekends when you're off, you should be with the family. So that's something that we firmly believed in those places, previous working places. And also with the conflicts, other things like for females, especially we are talking about gender diversity. We had Women's Day also recently. We had a lot of events. We take photos. We give a flower to them, to the ladies or females, and we are marketing it. But do we really do it to the employees is a question that we had about 10 years back. But now currently from my experience, from what I see, especially in this industry, there are certain positions, there are certain departments where you cannot go higher than that in the letter, let's say a technician or AC technician or a painter. I don't think there will be a lot of female that would like to join as a painter or a technician. So that's something we are looking at the gender bias position. And also, let's say conflict resolution ways and also encouraging them, encouraging the staff, and also celebrate success is also something which we believe is needed. You have to celebrate the success of others. You have to celebrate the success of your colleague. If a colleague gets a promotion, doesn't say that okay, you are getting a promotion because he's the manager's best friend. You should also be motivated further, thinking that okay, your colleague got the promotion, so next year I'll work double hard, I'll work harder and go to that promotion, take the promotion. And also regular team building activities, always do outbound trainings, we do team building activities, we have sessions like coffee with RM, we have sessions like coffee with GM, and also we have birthday activities, celebration activities, even Ramadan, Christmas, Urdu, New Year. For all these cultural things also we do certain activities to show that we are not a certain cultural place where we only celebrate New Year's, always only celebrate the Christmas. No, when you look at Chilau Hotel, Anante Chilau, there are most of the staff are Christians, so they celebrate the Christmas more than the New Year. But we as organization would need to do New Year, Ramadan, Christmas, and everything. So some that's how we try to keep them without much conflicts. And coming up with your question, I think these factors like regular team building activities, celebrating succession, and encouraging diversity and inclusion, also building trust and respect are few ways that we can resolve conflicts.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Namita, for your sense on conflict resolution. So I believe if we've got any hoteliers here, that would like sort of help them out. So a little bit of advice from Mr. Namita over here. So when it comes to my next question, so that's going to be my last question for this session. So back to you, Mr. Yashadra. So my next question would be involving the leverage of diversity and innovation. So how do you think we can go about leveraging diversity for innovation and creativity in the tourism and hospitality industry? What's your take on this?
Yes. Thank you, Adila. Now, this is a bit of a controversial question, I would say. But the thing is, let me give you a few examples. Now, what we need to understand in our industry, especially if you go to hotels, not the like travel side. If you go basically the hotels, we can see people who have good, qualifications, very good education qualifications. Maybe they have acquired a high national diploma or even a degree, even postgraduate. And there are some people also who experiences more than this educationally qualified people, but very with less number of education. Maybe they're coming just after their A levels or maybe O levels likewise. Now, if you take a country like our case, we are having this perception of, giving the more priority to the education qualification or whatever. But in our industry, that is kind of something that is different. Because the thing is, sometimes the person who has acquired maybe degree, postgraduate or whatever, he may not have the particular skills, knowledge, especially the attitudes. So we have three things when it comes to when we make a person a job fit, which we call as knowledge, skills, and the attitudes. So the person that I mentioned earlier, not having the correct attitudes, but the person who doesn't have much of education qualifications, but having a lot of experiences in the industry and who is passionate about the industry, maybe having the correct attitude. So when we are talking now, this is the diversity that we are talking about, right? And the other thing is, in our case, in Sri Lankan context, I think still this is there. Even though we promote so much of gender diversity, there is some jobs have been stereotyped, and because of that, the women participation is a bit less. If we talk about the reality, and this is something that we need to change. So because this is mostly in Asian countries, I would say. But if you go to European countries and the northern part of the world, they are changing. Women are even, doing all things that they can do. Because why I'm taking these examples is now in this competitive world where there are a lot of hotels, there are a lot of travel agencies, and the competition is really, really high. If you take Sri Lanka and India, we have a competition on tourism, right? Attracting the same customer base to our country, or whether they are going to Maldives, whether they are going to Singapore, likewise. So within the country, among the countries, the competition is really intense. So what we need to understand is, when we are working in such a intense competition, the innovation and the creativity is the most important thing. Why I'm saying is, like I mentioned before, innovation is not something inventing new, even though we have this general perception. No, we can do something different in our country, in our industry, so that is definitely gonna make a difference. Make the customer feel like, okay, this is something different, I'm going to visit this country, right? So we need to attract those people to our country, and to have that, we need to have the uniqueness, where we have to introduce the innovations, and we have to be extremely creative. So why, like I said, took those two examples, maybe that person who doesn't have the educational experience is having best ideas to contribute for that. And having a woman manager in the hotel can add some expected values, I would say, because when we have a difference, obviously we can expect these innovations and the creativity. So we always need to encourage a diversified workforce, so that everyone bring their perspectives, and by going through those perspectives, backgrounds, and their opinions, attitudes, everything, we can do some change in our organization. So this is very, very important. So how we can leverage, how we can fill this gap, how we can bridge this gap. So the very first thing is, we need to definitely foster a culture of inclusion, that if they're coming now, most of our people are going abroad to work in those hotels, right? So if those people are not welcomed, if those people are not getting the chance to show their talents or skills, I don't think they will retain and do the job at least for 1 or 2 months. But that respect is given, and they are being rewarded well. That is why they are working there for 3-4 years, just supporting themselves personally, likewise. So this is very important, even though a person is coming from a different background, maybe having less education qualifications, less experiences, gender wise, woman or a man or whatever the thing, we need to make sure that they feel welcomed and they are included, even the decisions are taken. So this is very important. Even when the management is taking some decisions, why don't you go for the bottom level and ask for their feedback? Not to make the decisions, but to just take the feedback and just see if the those feedback are going to impact on the decisions that they are going to take. So that inclusion part is very much important. Second thing is, we need to encourage the teamwork as much as possible. So when the teamwork is encouraged, people will be open with their ideas. People will feel comfortable to show their ideas. Like I mentioned, if a woman employee is not given the specific recognition, and if she is not given the chance to speak her voice, so that the ideas that she's having will not come to the stage, isn't it? So this is very important. So always encouraging the teamwork and make sure that they feel a member of that respective team is important. And the collaboration and communication, like I mentioned before, so that is very important. On the other side, we need to always embrace the new technologies. Now, sometimes what happens is, especially now we are living in a digital era. So basically the travel agencies have gone to the next extent when it comes to the technology, right? So some people may be out there who are not particularly familiar with the what do you call as these technologies. I think this is very common in most of the government organizations. So the culture builds itself like, okay, we don't need new technologies, we are not going to adopt for that. Why don't you change it, right? So if someone is not familiar with the technologies, okay, just let's have a platform to encourage them to learn about it. And then obviously we can include that in our organization. So rather than going for maybe, rather than being very aggressive and just going against everything. So we need to build a culture where all these innovations and everything are welcomed. So because when the people know that, okay, even something new comes up, it doesn't matter even if I don't know, because I will be given proper training so that I can learn. We need to have a culture like this where we assure the employees, whatever happens, we are there to support. And the other thing is, all these things boils down to one point, the training and development in the organizations is very important. Now, most of the people think that HR department, they take it as kind of a very difficult, what you call it, an department. But the thing is, the HR department, they are playing a vital role in the hotels, even though they are doing kind of background work, because these trainings and the development are very important to encourage and these innovations in a diversified workforce. So they also have to play a vital role where giving the opportunity to each and every employee. Just not let them to be on the corner and only taking few people. Likewise, so that kind of a culture has to be definitely developed to leverage this diversified workforce in order to promote the innovation and creativity. So that is what, Adila, I just want to just add. But to conclude, all my points is that, when we are having now, most of the time we require qualifications to become managers and, just to go up the ladder. So when you're going up that ladder, what you need to understand is we should not forget where we were coming from, because this is all about people. People are different from one person to one person, right? So understanding the human nature is not that simple task. But in our industry, it's very important that the employees understand the employees' behaviors, employees understand the employers' expectations, and at the same time, we need to understand the customer expectations. So this is kind of very, what do you say, very congested, right? But the thing is, to have the maximum outcomes out of the workforce, to have the ultimate goals to be achieved, we need to definitely have a very diversified workforce, and that diversified workforce need to be utilized in a proper manner so that the expectations are fulfilled and the organization's expectations are fulfilled. So that is a summary of picture that we can give at this webinar.
A very well put summary indeed. You've drawn a very clear picture with your answer there. And also considering that we live in 2023, I believe like most of these barriers and boundaries are being broken. Like even as we speak, like we see a lot of people achieving, like people are like coming out of the mold and breaking the glass ceiling. So there's been a lot of change, even in Asian countries, Sri Lanka being an Asian country. So like, I think it's time now to move on with the Q&A session from the audience. So this is the time that we'll be encouraging members of the audience to come out with any questions that they have. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them onto the chat box, and Mr. Namita and Ms. Yashodhara here will be happy to answer your questions for you. Any questions that you'd like to ask Yashodhara or Mr. Namita?
I think we covered everything, so that everyone feels
Yeah, pretty
so
much,
content.
I believe. So yeah, your answers have been really insightful, and it's been a really wonderful discussion. So yeah, shall we give it a few minutes, or would you like to add anything to what you have been discussing all along? Like, is there anything else that you'd like to add in closing?
Just to add a few things, Adila, once again, while if anyone is willing to ask question, that like you mentioned, that we have broken the glass ceilings in our industry, because I was also working in the industry a few years back, and that was very inspiring for me as well. So anyone who is working in the industry, they have to understand that they have a place in the industry. Obviously, if you are passionate enough, and if you are ready to work in a team, if you are ready to respect the other culture norms, and the beauty of it is that, so we have people from all over sometimes from other countries and with different cultural backgrounds, and it itself is a wonderful experience for you as well when you're working as an employee. So that is because it's not like just doing a 8 to 5 desk job. I'm sure if there are people who are coming from the industry backgrounds, they will definitely agree with me. A lot of experiences. You're meeting hundreds of people per day from different things, and you get to know about other cultures, you get to know about the other people's socioeconomic status, and you eventually become, I would say your human qualities are definitely improving, since because you're working with a very diversified economy, because you know that this is something we should not laugh at people. This is something, people have weaknesses, people have their own problems. We need to understand people, when we are working in the hotel, especially, we have to forget everything that back at home and come and smile with people. So that is the basic thing. And you get practice to this thing, your personal lives also definitely changing. Yes.
So yes, we have
So
a
that is
question
one
here.
thing. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we have a question here from Mr. Indika. So I think I'd like Ms. Yashodhara to answer this, considering that you're also the head of academics. So are there any new programs that you as Kingsley College hope to introduce, such as diploma programs for people who wish to enter the industry? No one better to answer this question. I guess we have the head of academics herself here.
Of course, Kingsley Graduate School, not new actually. We already have a course, OTHM level 7 course in hospitality and tourism management. So that is that course itself includes of the updated knowledge, updated content from the industry. So if you're definitely looking for a postgraduate qualification, now postgraduate qualification is something that you need to do maybe after doing your bachelor's or whatever, or at least having kind of a considerable experiences from the industry. So that it will make a difference for you all, if you're planning to go up the ladder in the upcoming years. So that course is a very good support for you if you are planning to acquire a postgraduate qualification. And like I mentioned, we have very updated content, which is applicable for not only for local content, definitely covering the international content. So if you are interested, you can just, talk to us and we can provide more information, and we are always willing to help you as well.
And also, Mr. Namita, I'd like to add to that question. So you being a professional, how would you say they can, once they go ahead, once they complete the PG dip, what kind of opportunities will they be having in the tourism and hospitality industry? This is just an extra question that I'm adding on to what Mr. Indika asked.
I think the opportunities are limitless in the industry, especially considering the number of people that who are going abroad. That there's a lot of talent dearth in the country. So there are a lot of opportunities for hoteliers, a lot of opportunities for the freshers who are starting their career, who want to start their careers after the graduations. If they're willing to have a career in hospitality, I'm sure there are a lot of opportunities. It's basically like people would be saying, please join us, hotel will come up and say, join our hotel, join this hotel. That much of a competition will be there for proper talent. So I think the opportunities are limitless. And also adding to what Yashodhara also said, I think I call the hoteliers, I call ourselves, we are close to professional actors. Why I say this is because we have thousands of problems at all. We have at home, we have a lot of problems. Maybe your spouse is not well, your spouse is going through a lot of problems, your kids are not well. But once you come to the hotel, when you come inside the gate to the hotel, we guys are like actors. We just smile to the guests, we'll talk to the guests, we'll forget everything what's happening in our house, our personal life. So we are called a bit of actors when you go to the hotel industry. It's a very proud industry that yeah, it's a lot of passion, a lot of hard work, a lot of determination, and a lot of these hoteliers. It's a buzzword also. These hoteliers have that passion within them. So the way they work, way they talk, way they enjoy their life, way they hang out with people, memories, the experiences they have to share is vast. So I think for all the newcomers, all the freshers also, I'm inviting you to continue your career in hospitality. You'll have a lot of opportunities in Sri Lanka, not just in Sri Lanka, worldwide, Maldives, Canada, Australia, even Dubai. We have a lot of opportunities. So if there are any opportunities in our hotels also, I would like to discuss further with Yashodhara and the team. So how we can have a sort of a MOU or something that we can link the organization or the universities with our organization. Because what we plan is few years back at Godface, we had a hospitality business school inside the Godface hotel. So those programs we are trying to reach out again, reach out freshers where from the hotel schools, we can directly take them to the organization or to the hotel, and we can give on the job training there. And maybe after 6 months, 1 year, if there are opportunities, we can recruit them for permanent role like management training roles. That's something that I'm also planning with my team and my management. Let's see in future. I'm sure there will be a lot more opportunities to work with, and I'm sure you guys will benefit a lot from that. And thank you very much for having me also here. and all the best.
It's a pleasure to have you with us. So Mr. Hemal Athureli here has another question, this time directed to Ms. Yashudra. Hi, Yashudra, when is the next intake?
Yeah, we're actually in the process of taking the next intake, which is 2023 May batch. I actually personally message him right now. So we'll be supporting you. I think he just shared the email address as well. So we'll definitely get back to you with the more details. And you can visit our website for more details, as well as you can just contact us if someone can share the number with him. And yes, I already did. Yes. So yes, Indika and Hema, both of you can contact me definitely, so that I will direct you for further details. Thank you so much for the questions. And like I mentioned before, so this is a very good qualification that if you can acquire, if you're planning to go, if you're planning to just elevate your career. And yes, that's it. Adila, back to you. I
Yes,
think we have already.
maybe we can like take a few more questions if there's anyone out there with a question or two. So fellow panelists, what do you say? Let's give it a few more minutes, shall we?
I think we are good to go, right? We got some questions, and I mean, we can wait 1 or 2 minutes.
All right, okay. So while we wait for the questions, I'd like to take this time to thank you both for like taking time out of your busy schedule and be here today to answer some of the most pressing questions that people in the tourism and hospitality industry might have. So I believe it would have answered most of their, doubts, questions, or any kind of qualms that they might have been having. So I believe we have had actually the best of both worlds, because we have an academic as well as a professional here. So I believe like we've covered all the important points here. So yeah, any more questions, participants? Seems like that's about it. So before wrapping up, so in case if we have anyone here who would like missed out on this session, like any friends of yours who are planning on being here but wasn't able to make it, the recordings will be uploaded to our official YouTube channel. All our previous webinars are available there as well. So you can just take a second listen if you want to, if you're in the mood for a second listen to clarify any lingering doubts that you might be having. So once again, thank you, Mr. Namita, Ms. Yashudra. It's been wonderful having you. Your discussion has been most insightful and your explanations have been crystal clear and industry relevant. And yeah, like I said, it's been great, like having, we've had the best of both worlds, a professional as well as an academic. So we've covered quite a lot. So thank you so much. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good day to everyone. Good day to you.